They mocked her in the street, not knowing she was about to become the most powerful person in the room. Stay till the end, this story will show you how truth and dignity always win. And don't forget to subscribe to Black Inside 2.0 for more inspiring real-life stories that touch the heart. The sun was just rising over the city, painting the tall glass buildings gold, when Ariana Lewis walked down the crowded street in her emerald green coat. She carried herself like someone who knew her worth, every step measured, every breath calm. She had worked her whole life for this day, her first morning as a judge in the city courthouse. But before she could reach the steps of justice, the world decided to test her one last time. As she crossed Times Square, 3 police officers stopped her. One of them barked, "Ma'am, this area is restricted. Step aside." Ariana paused. "Officer," she replied politely, "I'm on my way to court. Please let me pass." The officer frowned, misjudging her confidence for defiance. "Don't get smart with me." She didn't flinch. Years of fighting quiet battles had taught her how to stay still in storms. The officer stepped closer. "What's in that briefcase?" "My legal documents," Ariana said evenly. He snatched the briefcase from her hand. Papers scattered to the street, names, dates, seals, evidence of her new role as Judge Ariana Lewis of the 5th District Court. The crowd began to gather. People lifted their phones, recording the scene. "Look, I don't have time for this," she said softly. "I'm expected at the courthouse." The officer raised his voice. "You think you can talk down to me?" She looked him in the eyes, not with anger, but with grace. "No, officer, I think you should look closer before judging someone." But he didn't. He grabbed her arm, trying to push her back. Another officer joined in, while the third hesitated. "Hey, maybe we should check her ID first," the third whispered. But it was too late. Dozens of people were recording. The woman in green stood tall, her expression unshaken, as chaos unfolded around her. Finally, one of the bystanders stepped forward, a young law student named Marcus Hill. He picked up one of her scattered papers and froze. It read, "State of New York, Judicial Appointment, Hun." "Ariana Lewis." "Wait," Marcus shouted, "she's a judge, she's the new judge." The officers froze. The crowd gasped. Ariana gently took the document from Marcus's hand. "Thank you," she said, brushing the dust from it. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a courtroom to attend." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. The officers stepped aside, realizing the gravity of their mistake. Without another word, Ariana walked away, head high, coat flowing like a banner of resilience. The courthouse was buzzing that morning. Lawyers shuffled papers, reporters gathered outside, and a few of the same officers who had stopped her were standing guard, unaware of who they had just humiliated. When the clerk announced, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Ariana Lewis," the same 3 officers looked up in disbelief. It was her. The woman they had scolded on the street was now sitting on the bench, gavel in hand, presiding over their case. The courtroom fell completely silent. She looked over her glasses at the defense table. "Officer Blake, Officer Grant, Officer Miller, I see your names on the record." They stood stiffly, faces pale. "Today's case," she continued, "concerns misuse of authority and conduct unbecoming of officers sworn to protect this city." Her voice didn't shake. It was calm, steady, the voice of a woman who had faced injustice before and decided to fight it with truth. "You know," she said, pausing for a moment, "this morning, I had a rather enlightening experience. It reminded me that justice isn't just what happens inside this courtroom. It begins with how we treat people outside of it." No one spoke. She leaned forward slightly. "When an officer raises his voice before raising his understanding, justice suffers. When authority forgets humanity, the system cracks." Her words echoed in the quiet room. Even the reporters lowered their cameras. "Let this hearing serve as a reminder," she said softly, "that the law doesn't belong to the loudest, it belongs to the fairest." The officers couldn't meet her gaze. After the session ended, a young journalist approached her outside the courtroom. "Judge Lewis," he asked, "how did you stay so calm this morning?" Ariana smiled. "Because I've seen worse," she said. "When I was a little girl, my father was arrested for something he didn't do. He was a teacher, gentle, kind, but someone decided to see his color before his character. That day, I promised myself I'd fight for fairness. And I have, every single day since." Her eyes softened. "When those officers stopped me, I saw the same fear my father must have felt, but I also saw an opportunity. Not to humiliate, not to punish, but to teach." The journalist nodded, visibly moved. Ariana added, Justice isn't revenge. It's restoration. It's about changing what's broken without becoming broken yourself. Her words spread across the city that night. News outlets replayed the video, not of the confrontation, but of her speech in court. People called her the judge who stayed silent with power. A few days later, the same officers came to her chambers. They looked uncomfortable, holding their caps in their hands. Judge Lewis, Officer Blake said quietly, "We wanted to apologize. We misjudged you. We're sorry for what happened." Ariana stood up. "I accept your apology," she said, "but I want you to understand something. Apology means nothing unless it changes behavior. What matters now is how you treat the next person you meet who doesn't look like you expect." They nodded, humbled. As they left, she smiled faintly. "Gentlemen," she called after them. "Next time, just ask for ID." They laughed softly, a moment of shared humanity. Weeks passed. Ariana's story inspired thousands. Law students quoted her words. Officers used her courtroom speech in their ethics training. One young girl wrote her a letter. "Dear Judge Lewis, I saw your story on TV. I want to be like you, calm, brave, and fair. Thank you for showing that power can be kind." Ariana framed that letter on her wall. Every morning, as she entered the courthouse, she remembered that day in the street, the yelling, the phones, the crowd. She didn't see it as a moment of humiliation anymore. She saw it as the day justice walked outside the courtroom. Because sometimes, justice doesn't come with a gavel. It comes with silence, dignity, and the courage not to fight back when you could. Never let anyone's judgment define your worth. The world may try to shake your calm, but your dignity is your armor. Remember, the strongest person in the room is not the loudest, but the one who stands for truth with quiet power. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Black Inside 2.0, where every story reminds us that strength, love, and justice live inside us all.